Today is Tuesday, November 13th, almost turkey time.
It's the unluckiest Tuesday.
It's not almost. Yeah.
It's like a week away. It's in the U.S., it's almost turkey time. Everywhere else, they don't celebrate turkey
Nobody's
time.
going to watch the Level1 news on the Friday after Thanksgiving.
They might.
No.
They might have more free time.
They might be traveling. They might listen to it in their car.
Yeah.
No,
Watch the podcast or listen to the podcast in their car. Or maybe watch it. I don't know what you do.
doesn't matter. I've still got to fix the podcast feed. It's broken, and
It breaks like every other month, and it's like, damn it.
I use YouTube DL to like automate it, but yeah.
It goes down to like the priority queue. The getting the podcast working, because it breaks every other month, is like it goes down the queue.
Yeah, we'll probably just start exporting it and posting it directly on Patreon, because Patreon has that MP3 thing that we use for the other podcasts, so maybe we could just do that instead of trying to automate it.
We would need to do that open to everybody, though.
Yeah.
Or do we?
Let's take a free feature and make it paid.
It works for all the other software companies. Well, I try to front load good news in the news. That's a new thing that I'm trying to do. This week we've got some quasi good news, but not really. It's kind of empty, I think.
It's good news, but it's still a Jeep Pie acting in his own self-interest.
Yeah, so he wants to halt robocalls, but he doesn't. So what's he going to do about it is the question. What's a G with his infinite power going to do about the robocalls? Nothing. He's going to chastise the phone companies and tell them they have to do it.
Hey, we don't really like that you do that. But, take your time on fixing that problem, We'll revisit it in like 5 years.
Canada has agreed to try and get some sort of anti-spoofing technology by 2019.
Oh, wow.
And
like by early 2019? Or?
Probably end of 2019. Okay. And he wants our industry to do the same thing. So far, they have not agreed. But apparently you can't do that. Yeah, you can do something to confirm that it is, coming from the actual number.
I think the easiest way to catch it would be when you have a provider that every time it makes an outgoing call, it has different caller ID. That may be an indicator that there's shenanigans going on.
But I'm sure they don't want to do that because they're making money on all those calls.
One would think, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. I think maybe they don't have the authority to do this. And if they don't, we probably shouldn't give them more authority. But shouldn't the FCC have some ability to go after these people legally?
Well,
I would think.
I mean, if they were Title II communications.
The other big story this week that I'm sure that we will have some very neutral, well thought out comments about. And there won't be any partisan political bickering about this, but it was Acosta versus Trump. And how does that work into technology, you ask? Well, it has to do with the video that the White House tweeted.
I don't even want to talk about that.
An InfoWars video became a White House tweet.
I don't know how to summarize this. If you honestly don't know, you should just go read about this somewhere else because
don't even watch.
What kind of attitude is that for a news program? Listen, morons. If you don't know this, then you just might as well give up. I remember watching a documentary about the movie Braveheart. Remember the movie Braveheart? And they had those really visceral battle scenes. And Mel Gibson was talking about one of the ways that they made those really impactful is every time somebody was hit with something or one of those horses rode onto a stake or, those horrible scenes, they would go in and at the moment of impact, they would start cutting frames till it was really, really intense. Because at the last moment, it happened too fast. And your head was just like, oh, that was intense. And that's exactly what InfoWars seemed to have done here.
And the official White House press secretary used that video in their documentation, I guess. But all this played out on Twitter, which seems ridiculous.
It's the world we live in now.
Listen, I'm addicted to Twitter. Why is this on Twitter?
It's all in the Library of Congress, too. They archive all those tweets.
Not anymore.
But we should
Trump's.
We should back up, and because your earlier chastising, you did. So what went on here is Acosta was asking questions, and you can't just keep asking questions because there's a bunch of reporters. When your time is up, your time is up. You pass the microphone to somebody else because it doesn't make sense for everybody to have a microphone. So Trump dismissed him, moved on to somebody else, and this little intern came over to secure the microphone, and he fought her off. He didn't really do it very violently, though. Basically just like held it away from her and sort of like, put his arm up. But this video, because they cut some frames out of it or sped it up or something, it does look like he gave her a bit of a chop.
Like a karate chop. Like, don't take this mic.
It still didn't seem super violent, but in either case, he should have given up the microphone. He's not special. He doesn't get special treatment. But at the same time, both sides are now taking this to ridiculous places.
It is so utterly insane. Like, when you're this dysfunctional just at a press conference, like, how can you, like, you can't get anything done. Everything is going to grind to a halt because literally everything is so insanely petty. Like, I watched the original and it didn't look like anything that even remotely rises to the level of assault or anything like that. It looks like just somebody who's like turning and is using his hand to gesture while he's talking. But like, okay, consider this, like, it's just a few deleted frames, but also consider that we have technology like deep fakes, and consider that, well, InfoWars retweeted and all this kind of stuff. How can we ever hope to have any kind of actual conversation about stuff that needs to happen in any kind of, coherent way when this is what we're obsessed with? It's so stupid.
I bet the press outlets are perfectly fine with the outcome of this.
Oh, well,
Yes.
so what happened after this is Acosta he had his White House credentials revoked. And
then they sent him to France to meet with the president.
Well, because they can't keep him away. And a lot of people are comparing that to like, oh, it's communist China. And I saw one, like Chinese American reporter, and she was like, I had my credentials revoked in China. This is an eerie echo of that. No, I don't think it is. I think Acosta was being a little bitch, and then Trump became an even more petty little bitch, which he will always do. I don't know why people are surprised about that.
You can't out-Trump the Trump.
Yeah.
But technology, like, you guys as technology aficionados, I think pretty much, would you say that pretty much everybody that watches the thing at least aspires to be a technology aficionado?
Probably not everybody. No.
I'd say, a good portion, though.
Technology played a role here. And your job is to educate everybody around you on technology's role, because, if you don't, it becomes a little bit of 1984, I think. The whole, the party's final command was to ignore, what your eyes and ears were telling you. But at the same time, they didn't have deep fakes in 1984.
They would have loved it, though.
Yeah. And it's coming. It's absolutely coming. This is like poor editing with like Sony Vegas or something. Not deep fake. So God help us when CNN gets a hold of a deep fake. Jesus.
And it's one thing when you're being recorded and you're caught karate chopping an intern. But it's a whole other thing entirely when you stab someone to death.
Amazon must give up echo recordings in double murder case, judge rules.
What an amazing segue.
Turns out it happens to be stabbing.
Well, this is not the first time we've reported on this kind of thing. This is actually the second case, and this is probably going to be another precedent. In the other case, I think the house owner or something was like, yeah, okay, this is fine.
Right. Amazon fought it originally, just like they're doing here. But eventually the person was like, okay, yeah, go ahead, I don't care.
But hasn't Amazon also told us that there are not actual literal recordings? So it's going to be interesting to see what evidence is actually produced here.
There absolutely are. No question about it. Now, Amazon is taking the same position. They're like, we will comply with any laws, but you're going to have to follow the letter of the law and give us every piece of documentation before we'll give this to you. So I imagine in this case, they'll probably get it, and we will find out exactly what they have.
Hey, Alexa, why do you need to record constantly in order to function?
Because my purpose isn't to serve you. It's to track you.
It's to serve Amazon.
Oh, no, I shouldn't have said that. Well, our lawmakers, they're here to protect us from things like Alexa. And how do they protect us from things like Alexa? They install backdoors, of course.
The Manhattan DA, Vance, says that the only solution to device encryption is federally mandated backdoors. I almost read that as federally mandated backdoors.
Surprising thing here is this guy, he's not jumping on a bandwagon here. He's been making the same report since 2013. Every year, he makes the exact same report.
He's like, oh, it's almost turkey time. Time to pull out that PDF again.
The nice thing about this Tech Dirt article is that they actually go into almost painstaking detail to systematically pull apart the report, because the report talks about how it could solve unsolved crimes and how it would actually exonerate people and And it's like, well, it could exonerate people, but the people that it's exonerating, they would probably let you in their device. I mean...
But the DA is never going to use exonerating evidence. They will ignore that because they want prosecutions. Look, it's a game, right? Well, I don't know if you want to call it a game or a business, but the DA is in the business of prosecuting you. They don't care about the facts. They don't care about the truth. They care about numbers. So keep in mind that you don't have access to this stuff. I mean, it might be your device, but you might not know that there's exonerating evidence on there. If they find that, they are not introducing it into the case. No way.
There's actually documented cases of that. I mean, I don't know if it's the exception or the rule, but there are a lot of documented cases where, like, a DA really wanted to, I don't know. We've all seen Making a Murderer on Netflix, right? I mean,
yeah. They're looking to, it's a win or a loss to them. And they deal with it so much every day, even though it's life-changing in every situation. To them, it's Tuesday, So, not a good argument. We don't have to tell you people that. You people are smarter than that. Well, I don't know if you guys watched last week. I did a little soliloquy on Gab last week, and I'm a big believer that we should not talk about mass shooters. I mean, you can talk about, in a broad sense of what they did, but they usually do it for attention.
Yeah.
Or in this case, political action,
if this, then that.
Cause people to start talking about a thing, and that is giving them what they want, and we should not do that. But we can probably safely talk about Gab and the Pennsylvania Attorney General.
The Pennsylvania Attorney General has subpoenaed Gab because of the shooter.
And all the stuff on Gab, I assume.
Well, they claim, because that guy was very active on Gab. He did make the post right before he started shooting people on Gab. But what has happened is Gab has been dropped by everybody. GoDaddy, PayPal... there's a couple other ones.
We've got another story about that later.
But they have managed to come back online. They found another payment processor that would actually do business with them.
And a hosting provider.
And because of that, the Pennsylvania Attorney General has subpoenaed things, presumably to try and destroy them now that they're back online.
It's a really, from the outside, I'm not really free speech is good, but I think the side operator is learning some hard lessons about what is free speech and what is not legal.
Well, none of that is illegal.
No, but the whole, curating your content, they can't have a completely uncurated environment. They have to curate at least a little bit.
Well, that's because of those recent bullshit laws, though.
Yeah.
We shouldn't say that's a good thing. That's a terrible thing.
Well, it's just, it is the way that it is.
That's the sex trafficking one, right?
Yeah, we don't. That actually made things a lot worse.
So, I think it's great that people have a free speech outlet,
a zone,
but
a free speech zone,
a zone, if you will.
Yeah,
it's going to attract those people, obviously, because you're flushing them out of everywhere else. So, what happens if you give them no place to go? Does it silence them?
No, they'll still find another way that is even more under the radar.
And more importantly, does it cause them to not be violent?
No.
I guess we'll find out, because I think Gab is done. They're in some trouble. Well, we had an election here, in case you guys didn't notice.
Didn't see all the signs. If you're in the States, everyone has a sign in their yard.
Speaking of partisanship, and things went pretty much down the middle. One side got the House, the other side kept the Senate. And
I thought you were going to say one side got the House, the other side got the car, which would be really clever, because it's like a divorce.
Except there's no car in politics.
Sorry.
But many of these states are hotly contested, and they are doing recounts because if there's a small enough margin, you automatically do a recount. Florida and Georgia, and the Secretary of State of Georgia took an odd step.
They have accidentally posted or deliberately.
No, deliberately.
Well, deliberately posted thousands of absentee voters, although they did take it down later.
Because stories like these started popping up.
It's like, oh.
At first, though, they were like, no, this is totally a thing. But it is totally a thing. You can actually purchase the voter roll. There's a lot of websites where you can pay $5 and look up somebody's voter registration online. It's honestly a great way to dox somebody. You can just put in their name and find where they live.
Now, the argument against it, other than it being just, probably not something that a lawmaker should be doing, is these were all absentee voters, which means that they are probably not at the address that's in this database, which means that you could probably go and rob them.
Oops. Should we not have done that? There were also a lot of I think, was it Florida or Georgia? I don't remember. There was apparently the post office didn't accept a lot of mailed ballots because they're not allowed to charge postage on that, but somebody didn't tell the post office.
I'll say it was Florida. I might be wrong.
I don't know.
Every election is the same thing. It's always just a huge mess.
Cluster. The hanging chads.
We lost. Georgia also lost a lot of power cords for their voting machines. You know, like the standard computer power cords that have been power cords since the beginning of time. It's just hundreds of machines without a power cord.
If they would have just told people, a lot of people could bring their own.
Yeah,
everybody's got one.
Yeah,
just unplug Alexa. Bring that in.
Technology, it's amazing.
Well, we always talk about China every week. Every week we've got a China story, which makes this one maybe not super newsworthy.
Market, like...
It's more funny.
It's China gonna China? I don't know. I mean, U.S. officials say that China is violating a 3-year-old cyber theft accord. And so this was basically an accord that the U.S. and China signed. And it's like, hey, stop hacking our crap. We'll stop hacking yours for economic reasons. So this would be like, I don't know, stealing a wind turbine schematic patent thing from like a German company and then giving that to an American company and then saying, hey, look at this new thing that you invented. And it's like, wait, what? Oh, that's neat. So like putting an end to that kind of stuff, but now it's going on again. If
you asked me and you said, all right, money on the table, this is a wager and you're going to have to pay if you lose. When did China start violating the anti-spying / hacking accord? I would say the minute after they signed the anti-hacking / spying accord.
They just called up and was like, all right, just keep doing what you're doing, guys. You're still on the payroll. Don't worry about it.
And it wasn't like that battle in World War I where they fought the battle after the war ended or whatever. It was like it was deliberate.
Yeah. So they've probably stepped it up. Of course, we've got the tariffs now. And we've got the...
I'm sure we're spying on them, too. Whatever we've signed.
But I'm saying the South China Sea and the Taiwan situation and Trump siding with Taiwan.
Micron memory secrets. Like, it's like, China's spinning up a new DRAM manufacturer. Going to talk about that a lot. Not this week, but...
So, yeah, there's a lot of maybe provocation in their mind that we're doing. But, it's both sides. Now, we talked about Healthcare.gov, and a lot of people were saying they had a breach, and they were like, oh, we're not sure that we had a breach. Well, after they've had some time to think about it, they agree.
Turns out, hackers stole income, immigration, and tax data from Healthcare.gov. It actually is like a worst-case scenario. Wasn't it like 77,000 people were affected?
I think it was less than 100, but it was pretty close. And they have a list of things that were taken down here. Name, date of birth, address, sex.
Literally everything.
Last 4 digits of the social security number. How many values do you think they have on their sex selector?
2.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, for healthcare.
But this is an Obama thing.
Or it might be male, female, and intersex, like medically intersex.
So I think presumably they have alerted you if you were one of those people. They did not get credit card information, but all that other stuff is ripe for identity theft. So beware if you've purchased Healthcare.gov insurance recently, or even just signed up for it, even if you didn't get any insurance.
Level 1 will not rest until attack helicopter is a gender option in the gender dropdown.
What about just transport helicopters? Why are we discriminating?
Well, you could be a transport helicopter. But
what about medevac?
It's not medically relevant.
You got to pick and choose your battles. We are the attack helicopter.
What kind of helicopter you are is not medically relevant.
It could be. You have different modules installed if you're an attack helicopter.
Of course.
The aerodynamics are totally different. Seating capacity.
I can only accept carbon fiber parts. None of this aluminum stuff.
Well, you got to have armor plating.
Clearly.
And that's a scalpel. It's much harder for a scalpel to get through that armor plating if emergency surgery has to be performed. So
in the air.
It matters. Well, we all know about the DEA and ICE, the immigrations and customs people. They like to know what we're up to, and they like to catch us doing things that normal people should be free to do in a lot of cases.
Or just gather data on us.
And now they have a new tool in their toolbox.
The DEA and ICE are hiding surveillance cameras in streetlights. Somebody ought to hook them up with Amazon. Maybe they could just put Alexa in the streetlights. Problem solved.
Just scream out, how do I get to X place? And then the streetlight responds.
They could light up like GPS.
Oh, that's a cool
Of course,
idea.
it would be one person at a time. It would be very difficult for multiple people to use that system.
Confuse it.
They used that one time in Star Trek. One time. There was some rando that was in Star Trek, and it was like, how do I get there? And like the computer consoles lit up, and it was a line for them to follow through the ship. And I was like, that's so cool. They never did that again.
Well, because normally, like the usual people, they knew that ship. They knew every inch of that ship.
The computer knows not to be condescending in that case.
So yeah, we don't know exactly what they're doing, but there's a company that only makes hidden streetlight cameras, and they have paid I think the DEA paid them $2,800 and ICE paid them $22, or maybe it was the vice versa. And so for sure they are doing those. How many streetlight cameras do you think $2,800 or $28,000 buys you?
Probably about half that number, like 15 or 20.
You think 2 per?
Yeah, probably. But if you do it strategically, think about like, one of the border cities in Texas, and like between Texas and Mexico, if you just put a few cameras at like the key intersections, you'll get all the traffic through there.
Well, from this article, I gather that these are not permanent installations.
Oh, so that's what it was, just putting them in cities.
That's targeted, and like maybe you want to spy on a house because you think that's a drug dealer. Then you're going to go and switch out all those lights.
I wonder at what point does it become like, the guy that wrote about the circular prisons where there's a tower in the middle and it watches all the prisoners, and then like the pretty soon the prisoners started policing themselves. It was like this experiment in Cuba. I wonder at what point people start to think like the prisoners in the round things, and if there was a lot of sociologists that are like, oh no, that's a good thing, and then it's just not so good.
Oh well, any thinking person knows better than the trust police, right?
There come the downvotes.
Yeah, that's. Have you ever watched any of those? If you haven't, here's a public service announcement. Google or YouTube search, should I talk to the police? And there will be
segue.
There will be some very, very well credentialed legal professionals who will tell you the answer is absolutely never, unless you absolutely have to.
My favorite video in that genre ever is the guy who worked as a lawyer but had just graduated from law school, so like he was just getting started, but he drove Uber, on the side. And the police pulled him over because a passenger he picked up was like a known wanted drug person or whatever. And he's like, I'm going to record this. And the police were like, you can't do that. It's illegal. And he just kept, he didn't really troll them, but he just kept them going. It's a really amazing video. You should go watch that. Because when it was like, oh, you're an Uber driver and a lawyer, huh? Yeah, we don't believe that. He's like, oh, here's my bar card. And they were just like, oh, God.
We've made a huge mistake.
Yeah. So that was fun.
Well, the EU. Of course, the EU is a monolithic global power.
Speaking of trolls.
And it wants to control everything. It wants to be a law unto itself. But it does have one weakness. All of the member states have to agree to things.
So it turns out that makes it really hard to do anything.
Denmark and Sweden, and mostly Ireland. Remember the whole Apple tax thing? Ireland, yeah. They've rejected this key levy to tax the tech giants in Europe because they have to all agree.
Talked about that last week. It was going to be a percentage of income, and that was going to be a hefty number. And everybody has to agree. So
Ireland's like, nope.
Not going to happen. Now, they are still talking about maybe they'll still do it. They're still hopeful, but it seems like not going to work the way they presented it. A lot of them actually want, because we talked about the global tax. And a lot of them are like, no, we shouldn't do this. We should hold out for the global tax. But you're never going to get everybody to agree. That's never going to happen. Estonia is always going to not agree.
Just for the sake of it at this point. Just out of spite.
They know how their bread's buttered.
Yeah. Well, you can tell by the way I use my walk. And apparently everyone else in the world.
Chinese gait recognition tech IDs people by how they walk. Scroll down a little bit.
Something Bee Gees.
Krista, would you say that that's a ladies' man?
I would say that's a ladies' man.
Do you think he has time to talk?
I don't think so. He looks like a busy guy.
At Level 1, where we think we're much more clever than we actually are.
That's a relevant and popular reference.
Yeah, especially for the kids of today.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is going to combo with the facial recognition system. They've already hired this company to start looking at this. Of course, they've already got the video feed, so that's not a problem. Now they will admit that this is very computationally expensive. You probably are not going to do this all the time for everybody. You're going to like find somebody and be like, track the gait, enhance, that kind of thing. But they claim that even if you're like walking stupid on purpose, you can't beat it because it's looking at how your entire body moves, and you're probably not good enough to modify all that long enough to trick it.
Oh, we'll see.
The screenshot looks like they're running Ubuntu, which is, sort of fun and scary, which maybe also suggests OpenCV. But we know from the CIA director's YouTube channel that if you want to modify your gait, all you need to do is put a pebble in your shoe.
Oh, so it's really that simple to get past this thing that they've put probably millions of dollars into?
I smell a new product for the Level 1 store.
A pebble for your shoe.
Shoe pebbles?
Yeah. Well, we'll call them something else. We'll call them like, advanced gait modifier or something like that.
It's literally just a rock. We just send you a rock.
And you can what degree of gait modifications do you want? And that's how smooth it is. It's like low is just a really nice smooth one. And then it's one
like a river rock.
The highest level is just jagged.
Just a piece of glass.
From the dumpster out there.
Well, the Ministry of Defense has long maintained that, we're doing some research. We're looking into AI on the battlefield, but we would never have any kind of AI that would decide whether or not to kill people.
Until we did.
Until we did. Britain funds research into drones that decide who they kill, says report. So they're not actually pulling the trigger. They're just doing the research to figure out how to pull the trigger.
So they send a report to the soldier. It's like, it's an 80% chance it's someone you want to kill.
No, it won't be a soldier. It'll be like, some civilian just sitting in a recliner.
I'm just thinking about it's like you have a mortar or like Claymore mines or something. And the front of it is literally embossed in huge letters, and it says this way toward enemy. So it's hard to imagine that the end game for this technology is not, ultimately just showing you like a happy face or like a sad face. And the soldier has to be like, I need to make a decision on whether or not to kill this person. Oh, I guess I'll click the sad face.
The sad face has a little turban.
You should be UX designers.
Well, so this could possibly be good news as we're moving into AI. That last story was AI, and so was the gate thing. But I think it's good news that I don't have to interact with humans as much as I do now in the future. All right, that's a good thing. I'm happy about that. Amazon is leading the way. We all know about Amazon Go and their little retail stores. I don't imagine we'll get one in our little hamlet here anytime soon. But maybe, just maybe, we might get a 7-Eleven.
7-Eleven tests cashier-free shopping in 14 stores. I don't know about you, but if I can have the Cafe 80s experience from Back to the Future, I can cross one off my bucket list.
Do they still have the beer cave in these?
Now, it's interesting that you bring that up because any sort of identity check like that will not be part of the automatic. Yeah.
The beer cave, you always have the danger of the beer bears. It's the whole journey of going into 7-Eleven.
Well, that's still a danger. And, you'll have to face them with some sort of employee there. I guess that's good news because if a bear gets you, there'll be somebody in the store.
Yeah.
Because if they sell beer, they can't do this completely. They can still do it on all the other items. Now, this is not like Amazon's where you just go in and pick stuff up and walk out. You have to scan the barcode on your phone. So
it seems like a lot of work and really fiddly.
But you don't have to talk to another human.
I should get a nicer phone so I don't have to talk to more humans more often.
When you go to like a gas station, though, most of the time, the gas station attendant, they're not really looking to talk to you anyway.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're tuned out.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that personally. I know that's a tough job just to stand there all day like that. Rough on your back. You don't need to talk to me. I don't need to talk to you. Let's just go. Let's get this done so you can go sit down in the back.
I was at Meijer the other night, and it was late. I think it was like last week after the stream or something. And it was probably like 11:30, midnight. And I was at the self-checkout, and the manager was there talking to like the night team. And he was like, you guys are doing a great job. Really loving your job. Now, here's where we're getting killed. We're getting killed on the greetings. We got to up those greetings, man. And I just felt like turning around and be like, "You're wrong.
Don't talk to me.
You're wrong, night manager. We come here at night, so we don't have to talk to you people." And I've noticed ever since then, if I'm there late, people are just killing me with greetings.
That was a thing when I worked at a grocery store. We had to come, like, if you passed a customer, even if you were just on your way to your break, you had to, like, smile and say hello. Every customer you passed, it was annoying.
Well, one place where employees won't be doing a lot more greeting this year is Amazon.
Good segue.
Amazon is hiring fewer workers this holiday season, a sign that robots are replacing them, because Amazon is doing better than ever. They're moving more product than ever. But the number of people they hired plateaued last year at about 120,000. This year, they're looking to hire about 100,000 for the holiday season, even despite the growth.
Yeah, we're definitely buying more stuff, but the robots are doing an amazing job at cutting down on those numbers. If you think about it, that $15 an hour raise hurts a lot less when you got 20,000 fewer employees to worry about for the holiday season.
Oh, here's a quick plug for a Level 1 video coming out soon. Our Christmas video. Speaking of things you can order on Amazon.
Mostly.
I've got no products for the Christmas video. I've
got
consumed
like 2.
I've consumed nothing in 2018. I'm a bad consumer.
We'll come up with some cool things.
I don't know.
How I can think of one thing that I wish we could get on the Amazon purchase list, and that is our next story. It's like a free checkup for artificial intelligence Alzheimer's, because it predicts Alzheimer's years before diagnosis, so that you can like set everything in order and then just sort of coast out.
I'm not sure how that would work. Like, how would you give them your brain scans?
Well, you can, I mean, a lot of the MRI places have like, give your hypochondriac friends the gift of an MRI. And it's an MRI that doesn't count for medical purposes, but you can come in and they image your stuff and it's like, here you go, here's images of all your stuff.
It's like
but they don't read it for you. You're not hiring the radiologist to look at it.
The AI, that's the point of the AI. Just to get the brain scan. I just want to feed it to the AI. Like there should be like, brainscans.craigslist.org and I just upload the pictures.
Do you really want to know though?
Yeah, I kind of do.
Oh yeah. Well, here's the depressing thing about. Well, let's talk about it. They've got this AI and they give it these kinds of images, and they had a small data set, but it's a data set from the past. So the data is at least 6 years old, and it usually takes about that long for Alzheimer's to present. And the AI was 100% accurate, because now that we know, yes, these people do have Alzheimer's. The AI, without knowing that, was like, I think these people are going to get Alzheimer's.
And it was right.
I don't know if I'd want to know if it was like super far in the future if I would get it.
Here's the thing about it. It's not like cancer. It's not like, oh, we think you're going to get Alzheimer's. Let's just give you this treatment and everything will be okay. We think you're going to get Alzheimer's. We have no idea what to do about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like some preventative measures where it's like it might make it less terrible, but
we have no idea.
Yeah, I don't think it's just definitely not treatable.
But you could like modify your life, right? If I know that in 6 years my eggs are going to be scrambled, I'm not working anymore. I'm going to borrow a bunch of money and coast for 2 or 3, and then maybe like 2 years to go, because I know that I'm going to have enough faculties left, I'm going to eat a bullet. And I'm going to be happy that I don't have to descend into that terror of, not knowing what's going on in my life.
That's what that one guy did.
Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah.
He probably waited a little too long, but it was more the drugs, I think, than the Alzheimer's that messed him up.
I think one or the other, but yeah, it is.
The drugs probably didn't help his mental state.
It is super rough watching somebody go over a period of like 10 years.
Well, some of you younger kids, at least, you're sitting there and you're thinking, man, I'm going to be a scientist and I'm going to come up with the next amazing polymer or, composite. I'm going to be...
Lots of kids thinking that.
I'm going to be the carbon fiber guy of the 2020s, right? That's going to be me. Bad news.
AI is coming for your job too, or your would-be
job.
A robot scientist is going to dream up new materials to advance computing and fight pollution. So this is not just a simulation. They actually put this robot in charge of some lab materials, and it's going to mix chemicals and do experiments and look at the result.
I don't know if they had a picture of this guy. But yeah, they just give him... So they use one AI...
Could be a her.
No, it's definitely a he. They use one AI to...
It could be a attack helicopter, you don't know.
To try and come up with possible... So like, I think this will result in something. So they narrow down the the source materials. Then they take all those source materials and they give it to this robot, and it just sits and like physically tests them and studies the results and then tests more.
That's kind of a bummer because I bet that would be a dream job for like some sort of chemist. You just like dumping stuff together and testing.
Yeah, maybe, but the problem with this is it's probably like a 99.9% failure rate. And a human
would get demoralized.
They would get very, that's like,
a robot's
man.
like, whatever.
The robot doesn't care. The robot's ready. just keep doing it. This is what I love to do. And you know what else robots love to do? Robots, in a way, robots are like old people in that they love to go through your photos and look at them.
Google is using AI to help the New York Times digitize 5 million historical photos. So the AI is not actually scanning them. The AI is categorizing them. So they can just get scans and pictures and whatever of all these historical photos. And then the AI is like, there's a clock in here. There's people in here. This is the riot.
This looks like
This is from the darkest timeline.
So they've also got some newspaper clippings and notes and stuff like that on there. And the AI is going to try and make sense of all of this madness to go along with the photo.
Is that really how people like take notes? Where they just paste random bits and like write all over it?
I mean, these would go back to, probably like the 30s and 40s.
Let's go back to when typesetting was a new invention.
Yeah. So
to be fair, I mean, my sketchbook looks something like that without the pastings, but
is your sketchbook like falling into disrepair now that the iPad has entered the picture?
I have been using the iPad exclusively now.
Oh, man.
I've not been using my physical sketchbook anymore.
What happens? Like, there's not going to be anything for Krista Jr. to go through because it's all going to be digital.
I'm kind of okay with it because I have a lot of sketchbooks from undergrad and like they take up a whole half of my closet. And I don't want to destroy them because they're like important to me, but they also take up a lot of physical space, which sucks.
As long as you're using the iCloud or whatever, then
nothing bad will happen to that. 4chan will always have a copy. You can just go to them if you lose it.
Easy.
We talk about Acosta, this hard-hitting reporter and a talking head on television. And
the AI is coming for his job too.
They are, but here's the thing: I am surprised that this is not better than it is. To be honest,
a Chinese news agency has added an AI anchor to its broadcast team.
We got this tip from Twitter. Someone sent this video.
It's better than I expected, but it's still not great.
I actually didn't think it was terrible. I mean, like you can definitely tell it's robotic, but
it's the voice.
Yeah, the voice doesn't have a natural cadence.
And some of he put the emphasis on the wrong syllable a couple of times. And you would think with that, what was the name of that Google stuff that like made hair appointments?
I've forgotten.
Yeah.
But that was really, really amazing speech. So why couldn't they just apply that to this?
Because they're not Google.
Well, also like with the hair appointment thing, you have a much more limited vocabulary of words and phrases you need to know.
Maybe, but so the other thing about it is, this is AI in terms of generating the face and the movements and everything, but it's not really like artificially talking about the news. This is all text to speech.
Yeah, someone has still written this somewhere.
Right, yeah.
So I really need the software that does this because I'm going to try to make it happen with Max Headroom and or Ronald Reagan.
Are you saying you want to replace me and Ryan as your co-hosts? You're going to have two AIs like that?
No, it's a reference to Back to the Future, but I keep forgetting you haven't seen any movies.
That's a super dated reference.
When did that movie come out? Late 80s?
Yeah. Maybe early 90s. But Max Headroom, I mean, you might have gotten it if you knew who Ronald Reagan or Max Headroom were in that
I think she probably knows who Ronald Reagan was.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't Reagan in the Max Headroom? Like the Reagan caricature or whatever in? Maybe not.
Well, Max Headroom wasn't just in Back to the Future.
Yeah.
They had like an advertising campaign based on
it. It was like wasn't he in like Scanners and stuff like that too?
I don't know, but
I don't know this reference, so
yeah, it was just a bad talking head. It's like what the 80s thought this was going to be.
Yeah,
basically.
Okay.
And they didn't quite get it right.
No, much like the Level 1 news. It's entertaining, but they don't quite get it right.
So I think this is a decent first pass. I think it'll get better.
So
we try.
He's going to be on TV 24 hours a day, just spitting news at you.
Spitting rhymes.
And there's going to be another one too, right? I think they said there are going to be two of them. And it's English and Chinese language.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's the same guy, but
It's modeled after an actual caster they have there, I think they said.
which has got to be weird for that guy, right?
Yeah, to hear someone using like a weird voice.
Think they're paying him anything for his likeness?
Congratulations, Jimmy. You're going to live forever.
You'll never get old.
But you'll also, well, I guess probably an anchor in China is already saying exactly what they tell him to say. So
Is
Yeah.
there really? Oh.
Well, it's like that scene in Anchorman where Ron Burgundy he just like reads whatever's on the teleprompter. I think that's true of
although,
most newscasters.
in fairness, you know those videos where it's like, treat yourself this Christmas. Remember that one? And the latest one where it's all the news anchors saying the same thing. It's like, this is a threat to our democracy, which is even more ironic.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is really terrible. And then you think to the thing where all those different people were saying exactly the same thing with the exact same cadence. That's the darkest timeline.
And the threat to
Today is Wednesday, November 14th, and it's another episode of the news.
Gonna have some business and some social media for you today.
Lots of social media.
Technology in all things.
Well, this story is not about social media per se, but it was precipitated by a social media banning and a crackdown on what many would call free speech.
PayPal.
Yes, it is PayPal. PayPal is canceling accounts used by Proud Boys, Gavin McInnes, and Antifa. And I can't say that word.
Antifa.
I read it and I always say it Antifa.
It's a terrible word.
It is a terrible word.
Yeah, it's not a good name.
Anti-fascist groups.
That's what they like to call themselves. So there was, we talked about this last week. There was a rumble in New York when Gavin McInnes was speaking, and the Proud Boys versus Antifa, it got pretty violent. And in the wake of that, the Proud Boys and Gavin McInnes were banned from Twitter. And now PayPal is following suit, and they're going after Antifa as well.
So this article from The Verge is kind of interesting in that it seems more and more that technology companies that don't really have any affiliation with one another will follow the other's lead when it comes to removing people from their platform, which is perhaps dangerous.
I imagine it's probably more just like, I don't want to have my platform associated with these people and have people think that PayPal is synonymous with whatever weird beliefs they profess one way or the other.
Yeah. And there are certainly extremists from both sides represented there. You can give PayPal a little bit of credit, I guess, for just using a blanket ban and not targeting one side or the other. But it's still disturbing when... do you think there's any chance that Antifa or the Proud Boys get another payment processor? Maybe they get the one
The
that
one
Gab
that Gab
got.
used, yeah.
But they are technically blacklisting people away from doing business. They have that power. Legally, you can't argue. I mean, you know, they can do business with who they want. But this is also, it probably wouldn't affect this too much because these are like online donations. But the war on cash becomes much more terrifying when you see stuff like this. Because you can literally, if there were no cash and someone doesn't like you and there's a campaign against you, they could just turn off your ability to shop.
Turn off your ability to receive money.
Yeah.
For
whatever
goods and
reason.
services so you can survive.
Seems dangerous.
And what you won't be able to do is buy a new tablet. Although you probably wouldn't notice because nobody's buying tablets.
We've had an Apple event where they came out with a new iPad. Krista got one.
I did get one.
And a new Mac Mini and all this kind of thing. And Apple also announced they're not going to report numbers on sales anymore because of stuff like this. Tablet shipments declined for the 16th straight quarter because everybody's already got a tablet. And even a 5-year-old tablet is still competent for doing
The
stuff.
sort of work you do on a tablet.
Honestly, the worst thing is the battery. Like the hardware is fine. The technology is fine. It's really just the battery life from that 5-year-old battery.
I imagine there will be some updates to the operating systems that will make these, obsolete a lot sooner.
Yeah.
Because
They got to boost those
we
sales.
can't have this.
The replaceable batteries, forget that.
You got to buy a new tablet. That's just, if you don't buy a new tablet, the consumerist world grinds to a halt, and it's your fault.
So we need to get these numbers back up. So we need to break stuff sooner.
They just need to sell more avocado toast. That's all millennials buy anyway.
Now, you could use your tablet to pirate some stuff, but if you're on AT&T, you better think twice.
AT&T is going to cut off some customer service. I think this is the first time this has ever happened. So these customers must be like super egregiously pirating because, good Lord.
Well, I think these are people who do a lot of file sharing, and they do it. Maybe they don't even realize how much they're doing and how easy it is to track you down when you're doing file sharing like this. But these people have been warned, with those scary legal letters, which are toothless. But they've been warned so many times that AT&T is comfortable saying, yep, they're done. We're cutting them off. So, yeah. Terrible precedent. I'm sure that other ISPs will jump on board. Now, this is made worse because, of course, AT&T owns a media company. So they could be policing their own content. Now, no one is able to tell whether or not this is Time Warner stuff that's being violated to lead to these bannings, but, that would be...
That would be my guess.
Yeah.
Why else would they care?
They would. This is the second time I've had to close the newsletter and video on this one. Every time you load the tab, it does it again.
This is the most exciting news of the week.
I don't know about this. Obviously, they're trying to build the hype train, but I think they might be shooting themselves in the foot right ahead of the holiday season.
AMD reveals Zen 2 processor architecture in a bid to stay ahead of Intel.
I didn't have the camera on.
There you go.
So, yeah, there's the hype jar.
You don't have any money to put in the hype jar. But.
No. But I am really super excited about this. Now, I don't really think it's a big deal that they're talking about this before the holiday season because the first stuff that's out that uses Zen 2 are going to be server processors. So, if you're looking for like the next gen Ryzen CPUs, it's like a year out, seriously.
But they're talking about, in some scenarios, 2 times the performance of Zen.
I think realistically it'll probably be like 1.7, 1.8x.
But that's... If you're thinking to yourself, should I upgrade now or should I limp along for another 2 years? That's going to tell me limp along for another 2 years.
Well, yeah, it depends. If you got like the i5 2600K or something like that, maybe. But the really exciting thing about what AMD is doing here is they're taking the chiplets thing to a whole new level. So, like when you're shrinking from like 14 nanometer or 12 nanometer to 7 nanometer, certain parts of the chip, like the computational parts, will benefit a lot from that shrinkage. Other parts of the chip, like cache memories and stuff like that, don't really benefit as much from shrinkage. And so AMD is putting the computational parts of the chip on the new 7 nanometer process, the cores, but there's this like interposer thing that's handling memory interface and I/O and stuff like that. And that is a much better scenario for a mini chiplet carrier thing than what they had previously, where some chips have access to memory and everything has to go through everything else. Everything is much more homogenized now. So that honestly, it's super exciting. I can't wait to like actually play with one of these and see how they work in the server and that kind of thing, but it'll probably be a game changer.
They've also talked about how there will be a lot more dependence on speculative execution to get this kind of performance, which is interesting based on what we've learned about speculative execution this year.
And how badly it is for security.
Yeah, so you got to wonder how much are they testing the possible, bad things that can happen based on that.
One of the exciting things from the memory controller is they beefed up the memory controller to support more encrypted memory regions that use different memory encryption keys for different virtual machines. But it's possible we could see operating system hardening to where rather than use that for virtual machines, that it would separate user processes from system processes into 2 different encrypted memory segments. That would be an operating system thing that would have to take advantage of that. But somebody somewhere is probably working on that for the Linux kernel as we speak. Amazon would probably finance that development, to be honest.
Well, I almost put this in the good news category, but it is very subjective. Because to some people, this is good news. To other people, this is maybe the worst news ever.
Pants on fire, bad news.
Yeah. Cord cutting accelerates as pay TV loses 1 million customers in largest ever quarterly loss. Is anyone surprised by that?
No.
Surprising no one?
Ouch.
Turns out TV is expensive. Having recently assisted somebody with cutting the cord, they were paying over $200 a month for all of the set-top boxes and other it was ridiculous. It was utterly ridiculous.
You're paying to watch ads.
Over $200 a month for like 5 TVs, and it was only like $80 for the base service, and then the other $120 was just nonsense, complete and utter nonsense. I was able to get all the channels that they actually wanted to watch with an over-the-air adapter.
The last report had actually slowed down the descent. It wasn't an increase, but it sort of leveled off, and everybody was like, "Oh, maybe the bleeding has stopped." Well, no.
No.
The bleeding has not stopped. In fact, worst ever quarter. So, yeah, it's a ticking time bomb for the old cable industry.
That means the internet prices have to go up dramatically to offset that loss in profit. And because you are a captive audience, guess what? Your internet bills are going up.
I bet a Jeep Pie will work for us to prevent that from happening.
He always works for us and definitely not for the
He said in a
ISPs.
deadpan, sarcastic voice.
Well, the cable industry is not the only ones who got bad news this month. Yelp got some really bad news.
Yelp craters. Craters. What an amazing word. As much as 32% of advertisers abandon the site. Turns out nobody cares about Yelp anymore. Yelp can't fiddle with the good reports and the bad reports by law. So
They got in trouble for that.
yeah, turns out
Yeah,
they won't be able to make money.
There were a lot of different reports, and finally there were some court cases, because Yelp would contact you if you're a business owner, and they were like, "Hey, you've got some bad reviews, but you've also got some really good ones. Wouldn't you like the bad ones to go away and the good ones to be moved to the top?" And the business owner would be like, "Yeah, that'd be great." And be like, "Oh, here's your payment info."
It's like, oh, that's how it's going to be.
That
then.
sounds like a racket.
That sounds like extortion. Yes. So it seems like now that they can't do that, it's hurting their bottom line.
Well, now that people realize that and realize that the reviews are probably biased, which is exactly what you're not looking for when you're looking for reviews of services.
Well, this one, you know what? I could have moved this one to the front because this is good news, except for a very, very small portion. And I don't think they're part of the audience, to be honest.
Microsoft is being sued over the Xbox One's warranty void if removed sticker. So it turns out you can't, at least in the US, you can't have warranty void if removed because by law, you are allowed to work on and fix your stuff. That's the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act, which goes back a long time. Although people bitching about that a lot will probably get it overturned because every company on planet Earth does not want that.
So all the other consoles and even Apple have these kinds of stickers and devices and stuff, but they have all gone in and changed their user policies to say that, yeah, we don't recommend this, but they took out the parts that were against the law to say this will void your warranty. Microsoft has not done that, and that's why they are the victim of this lawsuit. So I think Sony still has the stickers, but if you read the fine print, they don't enforce them. Microsoft tells you if you remove it, they will not honor your warranty.
Which they're not allowed to do.
So,
in other news, this coming Black Friday, Microsoft is slashing prices of those consoles, so that's the good news.
Prepare yourself.
The guy that's suing them isn't even looking for any money. He's totally just doing this for the common good. He only wants them to stop doing that.
What a hero.
Probably costing him
salute
some
you.
money. Probably costing him a considerable amount of money to do that.
Level 1 salute to that guy.
Yeah, for sure. Pay respects to the. I don't know if his name was mentioned.
I don't think his
but
name was mentioned in the article, but
the Microsoft suer. Well, okay, so let's date ourselves a little bit here. Krista probably never experienced this, but I know, Wendell, that you did, and that was the Sears catalog.
no,
Oh, yeah.
I experienced it.
Oh, yeah.
Ours was not Sears though. We had JCPenney because my town was not big enough for a Sears.
But Sears was mail order. You didn't have to have one in your town.
Well, listen, we didn't get one. We got JCPenney catalog every day.
But the Sears catalog
Every year.
was this big, thick-ass catalog. It was like 3 inches thick, and it had all of the Sears stuff in it, especially the toys. And it came like end of October every year.
Yeah.
And that thing would be so dog-eared by December because it was like, oh, what do I want this year? Well, Amazon is trying to recapture the nostalgia.
It's like 76 pages or something like that. Amazon is mailing a printed holiday toy catalog to millions of customers.
I think this is it's crass consumerism, but it's kind of exciting,
I can't wait for the day that Amazon sells kit houses.
They don't have a picture.
They don't have
of
a
it.
picture of it. It may not. Maybe it's not designed yet.
It's not ready yet.
Yeah.
This was just going to be toys, so
Not exciting for adults.
But it was mostly the kids that would carry it around and like, oh, let me cut out what I want for Christmas and tell Santa, like.
I had to circle the number on the one that I liked.
There are several Sears kit houses that are still, alive and well today. Those are a good deal.
Is Sears out of business yet?
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's still a few
Lowe's
stores
is
open.
selling Craftsman, so
They went into bankruptcy. I think there might actually be some physical locations, but it's just they're getting rid of whatever they got left.
their financial services company ate them alive. Like, it wasn't that Sears was unprofitable or a terrible company or, doing poorly in the face of Amazon. It was their financial services company mismanaged the crap out of them and ran them into the ground.
Wasn't that the same story with
Toys R Us?
Toys R Us,
Yes. Yes, it was.
I was going to say Toy Story. It's not right.
Well, but I don't think that we can ignore Amazon's part in either case.
There was probably a role played, but okay, would it be fair to say that those businesses had survived the level of corruption that they had endured perfectly fine until Amazon came along?
Yeah, that's probably true. They were eating away at the margins with the corruption, and they were like, we can get away with 12%. And then Amazon came along, and
it was
you
like,
can't
we
get
cannot
away with
do
that
that
anymore. Yeah, so.
It's still profitable, but the corruption margin is going to have to go back to like 6% or 7%.
We all know that the corruption margin never goes back; it only goes forward.
Not unlike the feds taking away freedom.
That's true. You never get the freedom back. Well, so here's a technology, and I am reminded here's a little something from the past. Let me just give you a little bit of nostalgia. 3D TV.
I thought you were going to say something. Like, we've had a lot of nostalgia throwbacks this episode. And I thought you were going to say something way far back. But.
Samsung shows off a foldable prototype that merges phone with tablet. This is a story about every 3 years.
Do you care, though? Do you ever want this?
No.
This seems kind of like a gimmick. I don't really know what the use case is.
Microsoft had this vaporware thing called the Courier tablet, and you should just go watch the videos, the internal videos that they had on. It was like this is our vision for this thing. Microsoft team, build this. That was a dual screen tablet that I actually wanted, and I haven't seen anything that even approaches that since.
But now they do have a device that works. At least they showed something off on stage, and it was, I guess, kind of impressive. But I think the thickness kills it.
The thick.
Because it's like a brick.
THICC.
And I'm not going to carry that around in my pocket.
Well, maybe. So here's a problem I'm dealing with as a lady. Look at this purse. Look how big it is. If I had a foldable tablet, maybe I could get a smaller purse. Maybe that's the use case.
Did you literally get a new purse for the iPad?
Yes. I can carry
God. I wasn't expecting a yes to that answer.
Yeah, why not? I usually carry a very small wallet. But I decided to get
I've
a
never
bigger
seen
purse.
you with the big purse. I mean, I don't really
I
pay
did
that
in
much
college.
attention, but
Level 1 shill tips right here.
And no, in college, I carried a big purse because I would carry my books and my sketchbook.
you're already making lifestyle changes as you become an Apple normie.
I don't care. I care about being made fun of, but I don't care because I like it that much.
But here's the other thing about the foldable tablet. The screen did not look great. It looked like you're not going to get super sharp images from that thing. And also, you're never going to use a foldable screen for what you use it for, because you got to have that
the
drawing
nice service to
capability.
draw
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
And that one's going to be like, I imagine it's sort of, malleable in some way, right? Like it would be spongy.
Yeah, it probably would not be a good surface to draw on.
The maximum pocket form factor is the same exact size as the HP 200LX palm top. Anything larger than that, even by a millimeter, is too large.
I think even these days that we've gone beyond that. It's too fat.
It is a little fat by today's
Too
standards.
thick.
Well, the time has come, and because of his Twitter shenanigans, Musk must step down from his chairmanship, and the announcement has been made of who his replacement will be.
Tesla names director Denholm to replace Musk as board chair. Reading this article, I found it difficult to concentrate because I kept imagining Renholm from the IT crowd as Tesla's replacement. Yeah.
Here she
There
is.
she is.
It's like the sister.
Here he is. No relation. But she was already on the Tesla board. So
She probably wasn't standing up to him before.
the Tesla detractors are already saying, hey, this is a little too close to home. We wanted somebody in there who would control your madness,
Not encourage it.
not somebody who has already tolerated your madness before. So the SEC, I guess, gets final say here. So we'll find out if they're going to go for it. I kind of think they will.
She could have been really hard on him, though. I guess we don't really know, but Maybe she's like the one person like yelling in all the meetings.
Yeah, I don't know if they record like who voted what. I guess there's probably somebody knows her history in terms of.
It's not us. We don't do our research.
Going along with him, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And of course, he's still CEO, so I think probably she just won't have any say in anything.
Mr. Renholm, we've noticed some irregularities in the pension fund. Is it warm in here? Let me open a window.
And just walk out.
Well, last week we talked about the Google walkouts, and I'm gonna say I did not expect them to accomplish anything. I thought that was just a little, just some nonsense. But hey, I'll admit when I'm wrong, because Google has capitulated.
They are pledging to overhaul its sexual harassment policy after global protests. I don't know that they really capitulate. Makes me think that a lot of stuff's going on here, but the big change here is that there's no forced arbitration for sexual misconduct.
Yeah, but that's got to stop you if you are a executive and you're thinking about doing a little bit of harassment, right?
I kind of doubt it. I mean,
well, you could get sued. I think probably because of the how much this is in the news, the next guy that gets hit with this, they're going to bring the hammer down.
That's true. Google has been in the news a lot over things not even really remotely connected to technology. So it's easy to imagine they might be hypersensitive to any kind of anything that might be bad optics for the company.
Yeah, and they're going to just leave them out to dry, and the courts are going to go after them because you just had a big election, and all these politicians want to be like, yes, we stand with you. That's why you voted us in here.
So exploring it in that context, I'm going to double down on that's not really capitulation. That's like Google getting out from under it and being like, all right, look, it's not all under one house anymore. That dude is on his own.
Yeah. Well, this is definitely Google passing the hot potato. But for a greater good, maybe? I don't know. It's hard to say.
Is it a toxic workplace? I guess is what we're getting at. Does the workplace foster those kinds of things?
Well, if we believe the people who worked on Google Plus, then yes, it absolutely is a toxic workplace.
Now, they did talk about
that article a few weeks ago.
Google has an army of temporary and not official Google employees. They didn't get what they were asking for, which was more pay and gender equality pay type of stuff. And the detractors. And of course, it's never enough, right? With this whole social justice Me Too movement, no amount of, okay, we'll agree to your demands is enough. There's just more demands. So now they're saying, yeah, fine, whatever. You're going to give us this, but that's not enough because the people that we represent are overrepresented in your underemployed class. Like the men are at the top, and then the lower people are all protected species. So now you must do these other things to them. So they have not relented with their attack.
Has anybody actually get any work done if they're worried about all that stuff constantly?
You know what?
How do you get any work done when you're constantly being sexually harassed?
You're under all this stress, you're working on the new technology, and you gotta find a way to unwind, and now you don't even have a sex slave. So
we've got to let you go. You're real high in the harassment category, but the productivity is just too low.
Well, we talked about the cord cutters, and people are abandoning the television at an alarming rate or an exciting rate, depending on which side of that argument you're on. Where are they going to go? Are they all going to get Netflix? Well, there's a new game in town.
Disney's new Netflix rival will be called Disney Plus and launch in late 2019. So I don't think that these studio companies understand that people do not want to subscribe for 17 different streaming services.
Except I know some people who said that if Disney ever came out with one, they absolutely would.
Let me just give you some arguments to the contrary. All right, original Marvel and Star Wars series, Marvel character Loki getting his own series. How about an original series that's a prequel to the Star Wars movie Rogue One? Or character Cassian Andor. Who is Cassian Andor?
I don't even know.
But you're going to get an original series about that. How about a little High School Musical franchise?
Oh.
Star Wars, The Clone Wars, Pixar, Noelle, which is about Santa Claus's daughter, and Togo, something. I don't know what any of this is.
something, William Dafoe.
But people are excited about it, I guarantee you.
The big story is the Marvel stuff, right? Like, that's what people are
Well, Star Wars.
Star Wars,
Star Wars and Marvel, yeah, for sure.
This joke starts with spending billions of dollars on original content production and ends with the aristocrats.
Wendell, you don't know it yet. You're probably going to end up getting the Disney Plus stuff. Because of the Marvel.
You
the Marvel
definitely
stuff.
are. Oh, wow. That's going to be hilarious.
Just for the Marvel stuff
Yeah.
alone.
I didn't even think about that, but you definitely will get that.
It'll be at your house. I don't know if you'll watch it, but
Lord.
Well, this one is,
enjoy.
Chris has become an Apple normie. Wendell and I are still resisting, but as much as
have a use case for it.
I dislike the Apple normies, I will comment F to pour one out for them because of what's coming.
Amazon is kicking all unauthorized Apple refurbishers off the Amazon marketplace. What does it take to become authorized was the first question that I had. And it took me over 30 minutes to find the answer to that question, which was $10 million a year in Apple product sales.
It's a lot.
Why are they doing this? Well, they've just made an agreement with Apple to start selling more Apple products on Amazon, including new Apple products.
You mean I don't have to go to the Apple store to buy the Apple products anymore?
Hey, isn't that nice? And you can use your Amazon Prime to ship it. But
Easy.
part of that agreement that Apple came along to Amazon and they were like, "Oh, we could maybe make a deal here, but you will destroy this list of people." And Jeff Bezos said, "Consider them destroyed, Apple."
I wonder if Jeff Bezos was like Lando Calrissian in Cloud City, where it's just like, I've altered the deal, pray I don't alter it any further, or if they were just like,
No.
sounds good.
Yeah, he was more than happy to destroy these people. Apple was like, "We'll give you," and he was like, "Say no more, fam. I would love to destroy them. It's been too long since I've destroyed a group of people, let me tell you. It's 2018, and the third quarter, I haven't even done it yet." So.
One of the things in the Apple press release about all this, and I don't know if it was specifically about the Amazon thing, I don't think it was, but it was just talking in general about going after people who sell refurbished Apple products, and it's like, well, that's unknown quality and it's attached to the Apple thing. And blah. It's like if you buy something on eBay or Amazon and it's like used Apple whatever, you can, well, first of all, there's a lot of safeguards in place to deal with it if they're selling you returned or shoddy or substandard merchandise. Like, there are mechanisms for dealing with that on eBay or Amazon or whatever, not the least of which is the seller's reputation, and which in some cases, is years long on Amazon. Their business is gone, so I don't think that's fair at all, to the point that I think that, that's just terrible. But the second thing is that Apple has a history of refurbishing their own products in the shittiest possible, like shockingly shitty ways. Like, there's very recently there was a problem where one of the chips was coming unsoldered in like one of the MacBooks. The way that they fixed it, literally, I shit you not, was to put a piece of rubber between the metal case and the chip to just like sandwich it back together rather than resoldering it. And that's like that's an official Apple refurbished policy. Like, that's a literal actual thing that they did. That is not how you repair a laptop, by wedging something in the case.
Also,
It was fine.
last week we talked about Apple has decided to go ahead and support some of the quote-unquote vintage products in the Genius Bar. So that's another thing where
Vintage.
these guys
2 years
were
ago.
providing a service that Apple didn't. Now maybe they will, and that's another reason that they must be removed. So,
This is some really terrible behavior.
man, if only people would stop buying Apple products.
Hey, if the Surface had a better pen, sure.
And that's not all the bad news out of the Apple camp. There's some more bad news that I bet will get some comments on today's video.
Your engagement challenge. Phronix has got a great article about Apple's new hardware with the T2 security chip will block Linux from installing. So this is really, it's like T2 plus UEFI and UEFI secure boot. Secure boot is really at the center of what's going on here, because the T2 will prevent the mass storage device from showing up if secure boot is disabled. And, officially that's for security reasons, but it works with Mac OS and it also works with Windows 10. So like Boot Camp, Apple's thing for letting you boot Windows 10, will install Windows 10's certificate in the UEFI so that you can boot Windows 10 or Mac OS. Now, Linux actually supports UEFI and Secure Boot and all that. You can totally do Secure Boot with Linux. Red Hat, among others, has a certificate that's signed and official, whatever. Apple doesn't give you a way to load a custom certificate in a UEFI, even though whoever they OEM their UEFI from definitely provides a way to do that. Apple has disabled it, and as of now, Linux is not supported and will not work on a Mac Mini if you're trying to use the soldered-in permanently mass storage device. Why? Sorry.
Well, we talked about Tesla, and they've survived. It seems like they've gotten over all of their horrible things. The tweets and the crimes, and the securities
Calling
fraud,
the Thai cave rescuer a pedophile,
the pedophilia accusations. It seems like they're back on track. They had a huge quarter, had a great earnings call. What could threaten them at this point?
Volkswagen plans to sell electric Tesla rival for less than $23,000.
That'll probably be like what, 22.9?
I don't. In other news, Volkswagen has bought what is the company that makes the electric scooters? Boosted boards.
Oh, the Boosted board.
Volkswagen. In other news, Volkswagen has bought a Boost because that's about the only way you're going to do it.
Just put an aluminum frame around it.
Yeah.
Done.
So they're decommissioning some of their diesel and gas powered plants and converting to full electric. They are really putting their money behind this. They say this is part of the future, if not the future. So it'll be interesting to see if a $23,000 Volkswagen will entice people away from Tesla. I don't know if it's the same market, though. I mean, like, if you're going to buy, what's the X? That's like $45,000. They're going to have 35, but not yet, right?
Yeah.
Somebody buying a $23,000 car is...
It would have to be like the old Geo Metro. It'd be like an electric Geo Metro.
Well, they got the Beetle. They could make an electric Beetle. Something like that. That's a popular car. And well, they got those little Golfs. Those are tiny little cars, right?
Yeah.
And
doesn't seem like the range on those would be the best. Wasn't it? Was it one of the luxury car makers came out with like a Tesla rival, but it turns out it was actually terrible.
I don't know. I'm not that into the electric cars. All the cars I'm looking at buying are horrible fuel mileage because I hate the environment.
You just got a new car.
Yeah, and it's a 5.3 liter V8.
It's fine.
It's a 5.3 liter V8 that requires modification to use all 8 of those Vs.
But I'm going to order one of those. Well, this is not the end of the bad news for Tesla. Although it might not be bad news for Tesla. The Volkswagen thing might amount to nothing.
Damper.
But this is for sure bad news.
Tesla worker from San Jose charged with embezzling more than $9 million from the company. So, wow, how did nobody notice? Oh, wait, he was the guy that was supposed to notice.
Yeah, he was some sort of product manager. He did the ordering and the fulfillment and stuff like that. And so every time there was a dispute, there was like a Taiwanese company and a German company, and he was faking the payments from one to the other. And every time that the Taiwanese company would complain, they would fill out a form and send it, and it would come to him. And he would send it back and say, no, everything's fine. We paid you.
This is why you can't trust product managers. Secretly embezzling your money.
But they caught him, so his crimes did not pay off ultimately. And I imagine he will do a little bit of jail time or federal prison since it's international.
Yeah, probably worse.
Well, in the topic, let's move on to social media. And this story falls under the topic of things that none of us know anything about.
I had to ask what TikTok was. And I like to think I'm fairly up on social media, but I did not know what it was.
I guess you didn't watch the Level 1 news last week because I covered it then.
I didn't watch it, I couldn't bear to watch you that drunk.
What's the headline?
Facebook quietly launches a TikTok competitor app named Lasso. I didn't know what TikTok was. That means I don't really know what Lasso does.
It's just little video clips.
It's basically Vine.
It's Vine. But yeah,
With
but Vine was
music.
not but Vine was not a major success.
But TikTok is different because it's Chinese. So it's one of these hot new social products that Facebook doesn't happen to own. So of course, Facebook immediately made their own version of it.
Well, yes, because it turns out the younger crowd is leaving Facebook in droves, probably because of news programs like ours.
Or
They're definitely not watching this.
Or because their parents are on there and they don't want their parents to see what they're doing.
And so Facebook is must absorb because, yeah.
Yeah, and the people who are using Facebook are the older folks. which is hilarious because it's like something, I don't know, you grow up with something and it's like all the hipsters are there. And then all of a sudden it's just all old people.
And it's like, oh.
And it's like this weird, it's like, oh, that means I'm old, right? And one thing that old people love is fake news.
Somehow the old people in this case have like leapfrogged it though. So Zuckerberg has rebuffed a request to appear before the UK Parliament. This meeting was about fake news. The question before him was, what is Facebook going to do to stop fake news worldwide? And he's just like,
It seems like something that's beyond the scope of Facebook, but maybe
that's probably why he didn't want to meet with them.
Yeah, what can you say? I mean, they've tried, remember they tried the, like, making it the smaller font? Or no, first they tried the little badge. They put the little, like, red
This
badge.
might be fake news.
And
People were like,
Let me click that.
ooh, red badge. So that worked against them. So they're like, okay, well, let's demote it and make it a smaller font. And that didn't work.
Oh, it was a completely different layout. Like, it went from a card layout to, like, a media object.
And then they just started banning accounts before the election. And I don't know how effective that was. But it doesn't seem like they have a good answer. So, yeah, maybe he's just not willing to go because what's he going to say?
The other
Maybe
Facebook,
fake news comes from everywhere.
the other big news from Facebook this week is that they're following Google with the whole sexual harassment thing where at Facebook, you used to have to do arbitration for those kind of claims. But now, nope, you can just sue because that's not a Facebook thing. That's just wrong on so many levels.
Yeah, they basically did exactly the same thing. Microsoft, Uber had already done it. And then Google, and then Facebook was like, okay, fine. We'll do it. Because that's what you do on Facebook. You just follow the crowd. Just blindly do what everybody else is doing.
You like, favorite, subscribe.
That's the only thing to do. Now, of course, we talk about only old people are Facebook users. And some of that might have to do with the fact that old people blindly trust everything.
Oh, wait, no. Facebook wanted to take stock of that.
Bless me.
And Facebook is the least trusted major tech company when it comes to safeguarding personal data, a poll has found.
You can't bless yourself after a sneeze.
You can. I just did. What are you going to do about it? Fight me IRL.
That's a false blessing. It's
People
not
on the
gonna
podcast were like, what is going on in that studio?
So here's the chart. Now, amazingly, look how much Amazon is trusted.
I'm not surprised by that.
Why
I don't know
would you-
why, but I feel like I trust Amazon
Lex
more.
Luthor would have it no other way.
Also, why is Apple? Oh, I guess it's alphabetical. Why not put these in order of trust rather than?
Then alphabetical. It's a
But
good
no,
question.
wait. Here's G and F.
It's completely
This doesn't
arbitrary.
make any sense. Who is this? Fortune.com. But yeah, you see, on average, everybody's kind of above 40, but here's poor little Facebook.
At 22.
Nobody trusts them. But I mean, Microsoft, why would you trust Microsoft?
I guess you have to trust Amazon that much to let its ever recording speaker into your house.
That's true. If you're buying the speakers,
Or putting your credit card information into their website.
meh.
Are you nonchalant about doing that on any website?
Well,
you come across?
you just figure that your credit card's going to be stolen at some point, right? That's the world we live in. And we talked about, so Amazon's got the buckets that are constantly leaking, but is that their fault?
No.
That's just user error. And we know about user error.
Oh, Lord, we know about user error. Whoo, doggies.
But I think, if you're going to spread a message this holiday season, when you're sitting around the Thanksgiving table or whatever your godless nation does this time of year, maybe tell people not to trust the big data companies or tech. Or
Between
whatever.
your glasses of wine as you struggle to get through the dinner.
And maybe, but the technology demands a higher level of scrutiny than we've ever had before. I mean, maybe in the olden days, it's like you trusted newspapers, you trusted newspaper reporters, even though they had an agenda. Now, anybody can say anything, and any idiot can agree with them with the same fervor and amplification. And so, like, the whole everybody is a snowflake mentality. Like us, it's like, why are you listening to us? We're just some bozos on the internet. Learn to think critically instead. That's our message.
As one side of the table is arguing bitterly against the other side of the table about the Jim Acosta karate chop, you go ahead and bring up how untrustworthy media in general is. And we can all agree on that, right?
And then they're all like, shut up and eat your potatoes.
Both sides are using technology to manipulate the argument is what has happened here.
Yeah, you can bring up the Antifa and the Proud Boys, and I'm sure that will cause the argument to slow down and become more reasonable.
And definitely never escalate.
Not trigger one side or the other.
Triggered. All right. Stay tuned for Friday, because Friday is nonsense. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Security and nonsense.
Because those often go together. I don't know why, but, well, I kind of do know why.
See you then. Today is Friday. It's the 16th, and it's the nonsense day. Plus some other stories, but mostly nonsense.
Security.
Nonsense.
And security.
Nonsense.
Security nonsense.
A lot of security nonsense. And our first story is certainly nonsensical.
We had an election.
But in a very serious way. And it's sad nonsense.
Voting machine manual instructed election officials to use weak passwords. And
So,
where's the picture of it? Scroll on down
Here
there.
you go.
There you go.
So yeah, they're telling you, hey, use a real simple password so you don't forget it. And there's two passwords. There's admin and root. So make them both pretty simple. They're going to give you some examples here. They black those out. And just swap those when it comes to password reset time. Because just memorize them both and swap them out rather than come up with new passwords.
So Putin 1 would be a good password, right?
Well, if that's easy for you to remember. Is that your dog's name?
Aw.
Root 1.
So yeah, this is it's an example of the voting machines themselves had maybe okay security, probably not, but at least they tried, and they tried.
Oh, it's like the lowest level of try,
Well, they
though.
forced a password update, right? Every so many, I don't know if it's 3 months or whatever, but then the support team just gave them. But you do have to think about like who's the audience, who's working those polling stations.
Probably older people
Just
who have the free
This
time.
side toward enemy.
Barely literate. I mean, the people who run the voting stations are usually not the most impressive people cognitively. So,
Sorry if you ran a polling station.
not sorry. Well, 10 Cent, we talked about them, and they're getting some heat. They're being blamed for the blindness and the inattention of the Chinese youth.
Tencent will soon require Chinese users to present IDs to its video games. We've covered this before. This has been a sort of developing story over the last few months. But yeah, if you're an underage gamer, you're not going to be able to play past 9 p.m. And
And you get 1 hour a day.
yeah, and you get 1 hour a day. So you got to choose your game carefully.
That's I mean, it's kind of it's a stupid law, but it's also kind of like, man, can you imagine how much will toxicity levels go down when you know you're not playing with a 15-year-old kid who plays all day doing nothing else?
Well, but think about this. You've only got 1 hour to grind out as many drops as you can in Fortnite. And some idiot on your team ruins your run.
Oh, yeah. Actually, maybe it'll increase toxicity.
I wonder if this is a little bit juxtaposed with some of the stuff that we have here, because in China it's like we don't trust the citizenry to parent correctly, and here it's like, well, you have the freedom to parent badly, but then the results of that after they grow up are often worse than perhaps it was. I don't know.
Which one's worse? Maybe they're both terrible.
Well, I think we've always had bad parenting. The internet has changed it in the sense that those people can find other people like them. And it can be reinforced.
It's exposed more often, too.
Those people's terribleness have gone global.
And they can, rather than being forced to adapt to the world around them, they can just simply go into that world and be accepted. So
Maybe they'll all move together in some town somewhere.
no, because they're
require.
they're doing the neat thing.
Oh.
So they're living at home, but they're completely disassociated. Aside from the Hot Pockets and Tendies, they have
Pizza rolls.
Yeah, they're just living online. So
Well, we need those people. We need those people to find our 0-day exploits.
I don't think those are the people who are doing it. Honestly,
Probably not. Oh.
Researchers break edge with 0-day remote code exploit.
This is Microsoft's new browser to replace IE, Edge. This is a series of bugs, actually, that they use to exploit in order to get access outside of Edge.
here's a screenshot, a proof of concept where they've passed something into the URL, and they've gotten the old calculator to run. Now,
That's terrifying.
the calculator is not an Edge plugin. That's the Windows calculator. So that's a problem. Yeah, they've released that, and I think they gave Microsoft a little bit of a heads up, but not much.
This means that I have just another 100th reason to send to a client who keeps saying, I need to use IE. And it's like, no, don't use Edge, don't use IE. Just
They're not
stop.
going to comprehend that. They'll be like, you'll get an email back. It's like, I don't even use the calculator, so don't worry.
Don't worry, it's fine.
In a world of this side toward enemy, that's just reality.
Well, how about Iron Chat? I had not previously heard of Iron Chat, but Iron Chat is an end-to-end total encryption chat app. And a lot of people, it seems, at least in the Netherlands, were using it thinking that they could communicate about their crime with impunity.
Nope. A weakness has allowed cops to monitor encrypted messages for some time. Now, I'd just like to point out that this is okay. Like, as opposed to mandated government backdoors, this is perfectly fine.
They figure it out themselves.
Yes.
And you can make the argument for law enforcement, this is actually better. Because what happened here is these people, thinking that they were totally safe, incriminated themselves a lot.
So it turns out.
They busted some arms shipments, drug shipments. I think there was like some prostitution stuff in there. Although in the Netherlands, that might be legal. But yeah, they somehow... Now, nobody's sure how they actually broke this because it's end-to-end encryption. They're thinking that it might just be user error, and the police figured out how to pass another key to these people, making them think that they were the recipient. And the UI for this program was just bad. And so there was a tiny little font that was like, hey, this person's key has changed. Does that seem weird? And they ignored it. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Maybe.
It's probably fine.
And this is why UI is important.
It's like, what is this little message? Ah, it's nothing. Go ahead and deliver the cocaine. You know?
Speaking of government mandated backdoors.
Well, Cisco is so ahead of the curve that they were putting backdoors in before it was cool.
Cisco has removed its 7th backdoor account this year. And that's a good thing?
Well, it's better than leaving it, I guess, comparatively. We've done a story every time this has happened, and yeah, it does seem like Cisco. Now, in some cases, these were companies that they acquired, so
and then just never checked on again.
Yeah, maybe give them a little bit of latitude there, but yeah, they decided to do a full audit on all their stuff, and the findings have been bad.
You have a great product. Let's buy your company and never speak of this again.
Yeah. Well, another problem that will affect those of us here in the U.S. is I'd never heard of this. This is informed delivery.
So the U.S. Secret Service warns that identity theft thieves are on to abusing the USPS's mail scanning service. So who knew? Our postal service has a mail scanning service.
Actually,
who wouldn't have guessed
everybody
that?
knew that.
Yeah.
They take a picture of everything that goes through there, which is incredible. Like, what is the size of that database? And what they'll actually do as a service, for example, some people, and I don't know who these crazy people are, just won't check their mail.
Listen, I check my mail, just not frequently, because 90% of it is spam.
And I guess that's a common thing. So what the Postal Service is saying is, hey, what we'll do is we'll send you a picture of your mail before it gets to you. And that way you know if something important is coming, like a credit card or checks from your bank or something like that. But the problem is they'll basically just let anybody sign up for your service.
It doesn't mail you a card with a code or anything on it like it should.
Criminals have been doing that and knowing exactly when something valuable shows up in your mailbox, and they're there to get it.
Like a credit card.
So they're looking at putting some safeguards into that, but it's a little late. A little late. And you know what else is a little late? I don't even know if they're doing anything about this, but cybersecurity in Pakistan.
Yeah, almost all the Pakistani banks have been hacked in a security breach, says the FIA cybercrime head. So banking in Pakistan, thoroughly compromised.
Not really a thing anymore. I think they just locked down the country. You can't spend money.
Well, you can inside the country. They're not letting any payments go outside the country.
Until they get this whole mess sorted out.
Because they assume that these are external actors trying to funnel money out of the country. But they have no idea exactly how it happened or who's doing it. They just know that, and this is not like the bank itself losing money. These are individual people's accounts being drained of money.
See, my granny used to keep money in the freezer in a jar. And now I'm starting to think, maybe that's not such a bad idea. Maybe Great Depression Granny was right. Maybe keeping money in the freezer or under a mattress makes sense.
Until they make cash illegal. Then you got so much fire starter there. Well, everybody loves drones. We got the holiday coming up. You might be thinking, I want a drone under the tree. Are you going to give a gift of a drone?
They're looking at the
that?
Amazon gift guide from our previous episode.
The toy catalog. Well, you might want to rethink it if it's a DJI drone that you've got.
Which that's like the big name in drones.
It is.
Yeah. It turns out there's a vulnerability in the drone that's so bad that you can see the flight history of the drone, and you can get real-time video of it if it's connected, and just like the worst vulnerability you can imagine.
Payment information.
Now, supposedly it's been patched, but before it was patched, it might have been a global surveillance network without anyone really realizing.
Yeah, so the Chinese apparently, according to the government agencies, the Chinese are really interested in our infrastructure. Like, oh, here's a bridge that if it were to blow up would cause some problems. So how would they get physical data on those structures without actually coming here and spying? Well, a lot of people like to fly their drones around.
Like the world's best drone.
Yeah, look at this river. Look at me fly my drone around on this river.
There was some lo-fi hip hop. Put it on my YouTube channel, drone shot.
So yeah, they might have all that, as well as all the where the drones have been, which would lead them back to your house in a lot of cases. Payment info, it's bad. But, that's the price we pay, right? For our wonderful drones.
And our Amazon toy catalog.
Speaking of arms races and technology.
Yeah, we've talked about ad blockers. And many of you were very vocal back before we were using an ad blocker. You let us know over and over.
Use an ad blocker.
To use an ad blocker. And you still complain about AdBlock Plus. But someone invented a perceptual ad blocker. Now, a perceptual ad blocker is an ad blocker that doesn't use a blacklist. Or what's the politically correct term for blacklist?
A disallowed list.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Whatever it is. Pretend I used your magical new language. And so instead of using that, it uses an AI to look at each individual ad and try to determine whether it's an ad. Well, some researchers have played around with that and basically...
it's good.
Is it?
No.
It's not good. It was
defeated.
It's
the opposite.
It was soundly defeated.
You know that banana sticker problem that AI has where you can put a little sticker next to the banana and it's like, I don't know what this is. Turns out.
Isn't there's screenshots here, right?
Well, it shows you.
Kind of,
it shows you like the AI thinks this is an ad, but this is not an ad. So this is an example of them using some trickery to cause the AI to target actual content and get rid of it. So that's the kind of thing they can do. And they warn that this will be an arms race. Like if you put up, here's some more instances of them doing things like that. So they talk about if the perceptual ad blocker becomes a thing, then the ad companies are going to just pour money into defeating it like this.
Like the little sticker things.
And it's going to become awful. They also talk about how perceptual ad blockers are often resource and memory hungry, and they could find ways to just bog them down. So they would ruin your browsing experience if you're using one of these things.
It seems like it would be easy to defeat using an inspect element type approach where, it's basically crowdsourcing, but you send the, where it is on the page and what the URL is and the dimensions of the element and that kind of thing. And it uses that to get rid of that if enough people are like, I don't want to see this anymore. And so rather than do it heuristically, it just ends up being a huge database.
But then what if you use some kind of farm to like just start turning off your competitor stuff?
Yeah, I was going to say that
would be amazing.
Open to abuse.
Well, speaking of cybersecurity and malware, the U.S. government, in which it's a move that maybe invites retaliation. I don't know if we're in a glass house here, but they've decided to attack the Ruskies.
The U.S. military just publicly dumped the Russian government malware online. So they uploaded it to VirusTotal, which is like an analysis engine thingy. And so now it's available in the public. And U.S. Cyber Command, which is like the best name ever, it's a part of the military, is going to be doing that for a lot more malware to try to raise awareness, which is honestly something they should have been doing for the last 10 years anyway.
U.S. Cyber Command sounds like a DOS game.
It sounds like Battlestar Galactica. It's like U.S. Cyber Command was responsible for the creation of the Cylons, which wiped out the human race.
I was going to say it could be something in that Destiny 2 game we've been playing, where they just like mash together random words for names of things.
But those are much more epic, those names.
Yeah.
If I was ever in charge of a unit in U.S. Cyber Command, I would make everyone acknowledge my orders with "by your command."
You could, I mean, you own a business. You could make us refer to you that way.
No, we're not going to do that.
You could force that. It would probably not make you very popular.
Well, Oracle has their solution, VirtualBox, and if you're using it, I've got some bad news for you.
You can break out a VirtualBox. This is actually a fascinating vulnerability. So it has to do with the Intel E1000 driver. It's coded so badly. It's sort of a para-virtualized driver, and it's coded so badly that you can escape from the virtual network driver into the host operating system and get it to do arbitrary things. And this guy was kind of pissed off from going through, I gather it was like the Oracle bug submission process, and he finally just got so fed up that he was like, you know what, I'm just going to post it online. This will work itself out.
He's got a little manifesto that's in that article. It's kind of funny because it's in this broken English. And it's basically like, I keep finding your bugs and you keep treating me poorly, so I'm just going to release this right now and embarrass you as the sum of it. So he didn't give them any time to fix it. Well, actually, I think he gave them like 15 days or something.
Yeah.
But the last time he did this with them, it took, was it 6 months?
Yeah.
So he's like, we're not playing that game again. Here it is. Do what you want with it. Now, this is not. This isn't going to affect like the Amazon buckets and stuff like that.
No,
because that's a different kind of thing. This is only if you run this specific
VirtualBox.
So.
Well, a lot of people do run VirtualBox to try to, if you run VirtualBox for suspect code, like I don't know if this attachment is safe. Let me open it up in a VirtualBox virtual machine. That would be bad because now it could escape from its sandbox.
Right. Malware testing is something they use this for a lot. And that's one of the fears is like, now you can't just test malware and be safe because the malware could have something built into it for anti-testing that will break out of your box and infect your machine.
That'd be bad.
Yeah. So
time for nonsense. Not
too
really.
bad. Yeah. Well, this is
this is absolutely nonsense.
Moved into the nonsense section. I don't see how you would think this article isn't nonsense.
Well, we covered robot in the last episode
because it has to do with a robot butt.
A robot, but what?
THICC thick.
I was hoping we were going to do something like Abbott and Costello's "Who's on First," but there's just not enough butts in here to do that.
You think this is a male or a female robot butt? It's kind of curvy.
I thought it was going to be an attack helicopter.
It's got to be an attack helicopter. I mean, that servo is definitely attack helicopter.
So this butt will smash the phones.
Like button.
It could.
It could.
While it's because it could butt like.
Yeah.
It could butt like on the.
But like now with your phone.
Samsung wants to know what happens when you sit on your phone 1,000 times, right? And the butt robot.
Is there any software that we can deploy to prevent butt dialing?
Maybe that's what that's testing.
Yeah, I don't think so. This is actually the article. They use this for the headline, obviously, because it's about a butt.
And
the
funny.
article talks about a lot of the Samsung testing facility, which is kind of impressive. All the various little ways that they try to abuse their phones to figure out what's going to happen to them.
The question I have about the butt robot is it sitting with the same amount of force every time? Because frankly, I don't think that's a realistic test condition.
I bet it changes it up.
This testing lab really explains a lot about Samsung's line because ever since the Galaxy S3 was amazing because you could throw that thing down a flight of stairs and it would basically explode, but you could reassemble it and it was fine. It wouldn't break the glass. It was awesome. But then somewhere about the Galaxy S6, you can drop the phone about 3 times before it's irretrievably destroyed.
That's probably, like, we think that this is all about making them more durable, but it's probably just to get the durability at exactly that point.
3 drops.
Yeah. Well, if you're a Microsoft employee, they're doing some renovation. They're changing up their campus. They're tearing down some buildings. They're building some new ones. And what if you're lost? What if you don't know what you're going to do? Where to go? Like, where do I go for HR so that I can sue because you've sexually harassed me? Well, don't worry. There's an easy way for you to find out.
You open up your laptop, you fire up your Minecraft, and you go on and you explore the campus virtually.
Microsoft's current campus is sort of funny because
just pictures of it there.
It grew organically over time, and the hamlet that it grew up in didn't have a fire department that could handle buildings over 2 stories. So pretty much every building on the Microsoft campus is like 2 stories. But they finally are allowed to build bigger buildings now, and so there's just tons of construction going on, And yeah, it's in Minecraft. Because
I did this when I moved into my apartment years ago.
On a smaller scale.
On a much smaller scale. A friend of mine was like, hey, what's your new apartment look like? And instead of showing her photos, I opened up my laptop and I was like, I built it in Minecraft so you can see. And she was like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
And that's why you're on the Level 1 news.
Yeah.
She patted you on the head and she said, oh, Krista.
she was like embarrassed for me. I was like, what? It works. She's like, this doesn't look anything like an apartment. They didn't even have carpets in that version. It's an old time. Old patch.
Let's imagine that maybe some of our viewers were a victim of the October Windows 10 update that deleted all of their files. And they might be saying to themselves, everything that's come out of Bill Gates is shit.
And they'd be right.
What a crock of poop.
More right than they know.
How Bill Gates aims to save $233 billion by reinventing the toilet.
My favorite quote from this article was Bill Gates says that I never thought I'd know so much about poop, and I never thought Melinda would ask me to stop talking about poop at the dinner table.
Well,
because before this, they've talked about nothing but scat play at the dinner table. She's open to that. She doesn't want to hear about the toilets. So these are actually some impressive toilet designs. There's more than one. But the idea is, okay, there are places in the world where people are pooping in the streets. That's just the reality. It's 2018, and people are pooping in the streets. Some of those countries have space programs.
Have you been to New York? Seriously.
So that's not the country I'm talking about. No. So the idea is, how do you get people to install toilets in those places where they are not motivated to do so? And Bill Gates thinks he has the answer.
He actually talks a lot about the different innovative poop technologies that they've come up with. And they talk about using the technology not just for human waste, but also farm waste as well.
I've actually heard of these in China, in rural China. They've got those gas bleeders where you got like a compost and it bleeds the hydrogen and the gas separator. And then you use that to run your stove or whatever because you don't have electricity. So this is kind of builds on that in the sense, but it also creates fertilizer out of the waste.
That nitrogen cycle.
So you actually, the more poop that you can run through this toilet, the more money you're going to make out of fuel and fertilizer.
The toilet can handle an unlimited poop capacity. Just unlimited.
There's a lot of problems with using human waste as fertilizer. I'm curious about how they treat it.
Treats it, yeah.
Yeah.
So in a low cost way. It's like 5 cents a gallon or less, or no,
a
5
day.
cents.
5
cents a day.
So you're running the toilet for 5 cents a day, but you're actually generating more revenue than that. This is a money-making toilet. So
you're saying we need to invest in one of these for the office?
Well, I would invest in anything if a $200 million investment becomes a $233 billion return. Can't at that scale, but that kind of a return is insane.
Yeah. Of course, that's if this company gets chosen. Now, what's probably going to happen is these countries that we're talking about that will remain unnamed will be like, oh, we can do our own version of that, and it'll be a disaster.
Also known as the New York subway.
Well, what's sad is that like all the corruption in the various countries, it's like probably going to take all of the profit away from it, and then it won't solve the problem it was designed to solve. Bill Gates can't solve corruption.
He's going to try, though. Well, we don't talk much about Bitcoin mining anymore. It's fallen out of popularity with the price of Bitcoin.
It's just not a hit anymore.
These days, is it like for the average electricity cost, are we at a loss at this point?
Yeah. Unless your electricity's free.
Yeah, so it's hard to make any money mining Bitcoin. And this Chinese headmaster discovered that, but he had a novel solution.
He's in charge of a school. Schools have computer labs, and they need a lot of electricity. So he set up a secret coin mining facility at the school. And they asked him about it, and he's like, it's just the air conditioning or the heating or something. It's probably fine.
So he had 8 rigs, I believe, like this. You can see here what he's got going on. And his assistant discovered his dark secret. So what did they do? Did they turn him in? They added a 9th rig dedicated
like,
to the
I
assistant.
should do that too. I need some money.
Which exacerbated the problem, really.
Yeah, but these were the 2 gentlemen who would be warned about all the electricity overages. And they were just like, no, that's normal. It's okay. But eventually they were found out, and he has been terminated. The assistant got to stay.
He's been so one rig is fine. It's
Well, they didn't let him keep the mining rate. They did have to give the coins back, but that was a good plan until it didn't work.
We got level 1 breaking news for you. Evidence of an alien civilization.
This story made a lot of people were very happy seeing this. So you got a Harvard researcher, that's got some weight behind